Well, I just finished soldering this copper pipe that froze this winter, and a lot of people sometimes they think it's hard to solder copper pipe. Well, it's really not. Soldering copper pipe is simple if you've just got a few simple tools. The molecules of the solder and the molecules of the copper interlock, and that's what makes a leak-proof joint. Start first by taking the sandpaper and wipe the copper pipe until it's bright and shiny like a new penny. Go ahead and take a fitting brush and twist it inside of the fitting, and also dress up the edges of the fitting. That's very important. Mix up your solder flux, which is basically a paste, because if it sits for a while, it can actually separate, and you want to make sure that it's nice and consistent. I like to use a little, what we call a solder paste brush. Remember, you just want a little bit on the pipe and the inside of the fitting. After you've applied the flux, it's time to insert the pipe into the fitting so that we can begin to solder. It's now time to go ahead and heat up the joint so that the solder will melt. I prefer to use acetylene torches because they burn hotter, but the propane torches that you typically find at the hardware stores, and you may have one around your home, they work just great. Apply the torch to the copper joints and make sure that it heats up for about 5 or 10 seconds, and you'll see the flux basically boil away. Once the joint is hot, now it's time to pull the torch away, and the heat that's left in the copper pipe in the fitting should be sufficient enough to go ahead and melt the solder. You'll see the solder start to flow into the joint, and it actually will wrap around the complete joint. Go ahead and do it for about 3 or 4 seconds, and plenty of solder has flown into the joint. Once you're finished, use a rag to lightly dress up the joint. The solder's hot, so be careful, and wipe off any residual flux and make the pipe nice and shiny. If you leave flux behind, it can actually corrode the pipe a few years later and cause a leak. Ah, victory! Yet another perfect soldered joint. It's really simple when you have the right tools and take your time. I'm Tim Carter, Ask the Builder. If you want to discover more home improvement tips, go to askthebuilder.com.